Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's story, my entitled neighbor Karen repeatedly parks in my handicap parking spot, so I ended up getting her car towed and I got the ultimate revenge. Here is what happened. And the title story starts like this. So I had a Karen in my life once. She was my neighbor 2 doors down in a small village in Czechia, very close to Slovakia. I could literally see it across the fields. Living in a village as such, you get very close to everyone and you're a very tight-knit community. We have helped each other out no matter what. It was important that we supported each other so that we and the village could thrive, and thrive we did, all with the exception of Karen. She moved to the village about 15 years ago and everything was good until she moved in. Up until then we were a very relaxed village and the worst thing we had to deal with was the cows constantly pushing over the stone wall around their field. However, once Karen showed up, she would complain about every little thing. The roads were not wide enough, there wasn't enough pedestrian paths along the roads, the bridges looked like they were gonna collapse, children playing in the woods, foxes, badgers and bears were left to run amok. We used to take turns being village mayor, and the one time she was mayor was the most stressful time in the village. She made up plans to develop the village beyond what we needed, claiming that it is important to grow so we don't stagnate. Against our advice, she went to the municipal meeting with her plans, and I think she thought she was the president or something, and when she came back we were told never to send Karen again. I don't think she took that very well, as she turned very bitter at the rest of the village and things only got worse from there. Karen became her own police enforcement and would spend her days wandering around the village looking for trouble and then call the police on people. She loved to call the police for every little thing, and one time the police actually gave her a warning for wasting their time. She called the police on one of my longtime friends for cutting wood out in the road. His road was never used except by those who lived on it, and most of them didn't have cars, so he wasn't exactly in anyone's way. Some of the kids from neighboring villages used to meet up to play football or cricket in one of the fields or just to hang out about. It's a village surrounded by villages and there was not much to do for the young people. Karen took offense to this, said they were trespassing and called the police when they refused to move on. As a counter-effort, the village decided to designate the field as a public play park. The local municipal even sent groundskeepers to tend the fields and set up goalposts. I think you can even see Karen today walking the edge of the field with her scrappy little dog, mumbling obscenities at the children playing football. Well, not too long ago I was diagnosed with diabetes, and because it had gotten bad, they had to take most of my left leg. They do that when the diabetes is too bad. They take a foot to prevent poisonous ulcers from forming. Because I was too old, the doctors gave me a wheelchair to help with my mobility rather than replace the foot with a prosthetic. Which I was sad about because I wanted a robot limb since I was a kid. Along with the wheelchair, the municipal designated my own disabled parking spot, which I told them was unnecessary because the village didn't have any problems with finding parking spaces, but they told me it's part of their duty of care. As you can imagine, Karen did not like the fact that someone else was getting something to make their life easier while she had to suffer like any able-bodied person. In my mind, she was jealous that she didn't get to park right outside her front door in her own special designated parking spot that singled her out as special. It was not like our road was busy most of the time, she was simply able to park right outside her front door anyway, and in an effort to try and make herself just as special as I was, she got these huge stickers that she would slap on the windscreen of the cars that would say something like "Not your parking space" or "Parking twat" on them. They were nasty stickers that were almost impossible to get rid of. This upset a lot of people on my road, and in the end, the police were called on her and she was charged with vandalizing other people's property. That put a stop to the stickers, but not to her behavior. Often when I went out, I would find her car in my parking spot, which is illegal for non-handicapped people to park in a disabled spot. This bothered me more than I feel it should have done. I tried to play it off, as I said, the road's not very busy and having to travel an extra few meters was not gonna bother me because I'm in a wheelchair. I did ask her to move her car as it was my parking spot and she was illegally parked. She took it as a sign that I was trying to make her jealous and said some not very nice things and constantly swore at me. Well, that really flicked my switch, pressed my buttons and got me riled up. I was going to phone the police, have her car towed, but then I realized they would just get Mike in the next village to tow the car. He does all the towing in our area. So I got an idea. I called Mike instead and told him about Karen parking in my disabled spot, and without missing a beat, he tells me he knows exactly what to do. He comes around about an hour later with the tow truck and we hook up Karen's car and he tells me to pack snacks as we are going on a trip. Now I am curious as the impound was only a 2-hour drive away. So instead, we head out on a very long journey. He takes us across the border into Slovakia and after about an hour or so, pulled into a garage. The guy there is expecting us and no sooner do we dump Karen's car and then they get to work. They have angle grinders, bolt croppers, welding torches, spanners and screwdrivers. It was a sight to behold, almost like watching ants strip a scorpion on one of them nature documentaries. They ripped and pulled the car to its base components. The engine block came out, the exhaust system, all the seats, radio, dashboard, all the dials and switches until there was nothing left but the chassis. That was then put into a machine that crumbled it down to a small cube. We kept the badge though, that was important. The guys in the garage handed over a large wad of cash, of which some was given to me, enough to buy a new TV, and we headed back home. I then put the car's badge in an envelope and posted it through Karen's door. She was livid when she found it. She thought someone had stolen her car and she had called the police and everything. However, there was no car to be found and no evidence of what happened to it. The police came and spoke to me, as they did with all the neighbors, and not one person saw what had happened to the car, so there was nothing they could do. They closed the case and Karen was left without transportation and no way to be able to park in my parking spot anymore. Just to rub it in, I let the other neighbors park there. When things settled down, I posted the car's badge and that whole day, Karen was out in the street ranting and raving and demanding for the culprit to come forward. We all watched from behind our curtains and laughed about her. At some point, someone called the cops on her and she was taken away for being aggressive towards the police officers and breaking the public peace. She was very quiet after that and did not try to force her authority on anyone anymore. And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments whether you think OP went too far in this story, or do you think that Karen got exactly what she deserved for parking in a disabled spot when she had no business of doing so. And while you're at it, please also don't forget to like the video because that would help me tremendously. And the next one is titled Police Laundry Revenge. This story took place during my sophomore year of college. All the washing machines and dryers were shared among the residents of our building. I had switched my laundry over to the dryer and was heading back to the laundry room after an hour, expecting my laundry to be finished and dry. When I got there, my clothes had been already taken out and they were completely soaking wet. Not to mention they were carelessly thrown on top of the dryer and a lot of my clean clothes had ended up on the floor. This meant that some a-hole had decided that they were just more important than others and had taken my clothes out just to put theirs in. The dryer cycle was just about finished, so I took their nice dry clothes up to the highest floor of our building and threw them back in the washing machine so that they would have to find them and redo their whole laundry cycle. I thought that would be the end of it, but when I came back later that day, there were 3 cops around the laundry room, which always seemed like overkill to me. I asked the RA what the cops were there for, and she told me that somebody had tampered with the resident's clothing and that the resident had called the cops hoping they would investigate further. They left after a bit, and as far as I know, no investigation ever took place, but that night every resident was sent an email saying how we must always respect each other's belongings and never touch someone else's laundry. And I still cherish that email. And the next one is another revenge story. So I'm a flight attendant for a major airline and the entitlement I encounter is just crazy. This week, passengers were boarding the flight as usual, large roll-on bag on top, personal item underneath their seat. But then this lady comes on and half-asses her roll-on into the overhead bin. I mean, this bag is halfway sticking out from the bin. So we make an announcement. LNG, please make sure your bag is properly placed in the overhead bin. This flight will be full and if the bag doesn't fit, we are closing bins. It will have to be checked. I can see the lady and she looks at her bag and stares out the window again. A second and third announcement are made just for her. I cannot stop the boarding process to talk to her directly, so whatever. I'd have to deal with her bag at the end of boarding. True to our word, the flight is completely full and so are the bins. I approach her luggage and of course the bin doesn't close. I ask the general area whose bag I was holding as it doesn't fit as it's placed. That's my bag, but there's people's backpacks up there. Ask them to put them under their seat so you can make it fit. Also, there's a jacket behind my bag. My bag always fits up there, she says. There's nothing behind her bag. It's simply too long and won't fit perpendicular to the aisle and the bin is full, so I cannot place it in sideways. So I tell her this and ask what her final destination was so I could check it there. She refuses to tell me and again repeating to make it work, do your job. We are approaching our departure time, so I'm already flustered with this lady and I said, I'm sorry, I cannot make it work. This bag needs to be checked. We made several announcements over the last 15 minutes and you had plenty of time to get your bag stowed properly. People have as much right to access these bins as you do, so I cannot force passengers to bring down their items to accommodate yours. So I asked her again what her final destination was. She ignored me, stared out the window. Ma'am? No answer. Ma'am? Nothing. Fine. I take the bag down, hand it to the agent. What's the final destination, he asks. Our flight was headed to Chicago. I paused. Lubbock. Which, as far as I know, is a city in Texas. And the next one is a story from r/Am I the Jerk. It starts like this. My female 27 sister-in-law, female 30, got married last weekend. She is my long-term boyfriend's male 32 sister. They are white and I'm Middle Eastern and a dark one with raven black hair. She was looking for a photographer that didn't bankrupt her, so I suggested a friend of mine who's new in business and charged less than half because these things cost over 5,000 euros these days. She was excited and I set up a group chat with her and my photographer friend. We talked a little and later they met and they started messaging directly to each other. The wedding was amazing and everything went smoothly. I was one of the guests and she seemed happy. The next day they went off to their honeymoon. I don't know if it was by mistake, but instead of texting the photographer directly, like she has done for the past few months, she texted him to our old iMessage chat. She thanked him but had a favor to ask him and wondered whether he could retouch some asymmetry in the flower's archway. I'm sorry I don't know the right terms in English. But also if he could take me off some photos because I'm too dark and ruined the color palette. Not all pictures, just the ones she is in. I texted back, "Are you kidding me?" She didn't answer. I took a screenshot and posted it on my Insta story tagging her in it. She called my BF crying her eyes out, calling me an a-hole for embarrassing her and ruining her honeymoon. BF thought it was a low blow. I was blinded with rage when I did it, but even now I am calm. I still don't feel that I was an a-hole. But people have been contacting her apparently asking if she really wrote this. She is so beautiful and successful, so please don't blame it on jealousy or scare of being outshined. And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Either way, a person on Reddit said, "It's always appropriate to embarrass a racist. Just always." And while you're not likely to cure your sister-in-law, perhaps she will think twice before communicating such ugly thoughts in the future. Not the a-hole. Comment number 2, not the a-hole. Racists deserve to be called out publicly whenever possible. I wonder if it was really accidental that she sent the message to the whole group. Your BF is an a-hole for not standing by you and chastising his sister himself. I'm so sorry this happened to you, but sadly I'm not surprised. And now a little update to the story. Sister-in-law is still on her honeymoon, so I haven't talked to her yet, but she is bombarding my boyfriend demanding that I apologize and make a new Insta story with my apology. More people got involved, including my boyfriend's mother, that thought I was way out of line ruining her daughter's wedding. I've also got contacted by my sister-in-law's friends. Some of them told me stories about what she's been talking about me behind my back. So yeah, she got what she deserved. The amount of her friends that weren't surprised at all with her text made it clear for me that I was not wrong. My sister-in-law is self-employed with some foreign customers, that's why she is taking it so hard, because she is scared that would affect her career. I don't feel like I need to save her career should something bad happen to it. Number 2, my photographer friend did what he was told. That's the only right way in my opinion. Being professional and not confuse work with his own values. He asked me if I wanted him to say something and I said no. I also asked him not to tell me what they are texting since she is his client, so he shouldn't break confidentiality. He is just starting his career and he will meet worse brides. She was at least nice to him throughout their interaction. Number 3, now to my boyfriend. As I said, he thought this whole thing was uncomfortable. I told him if he wanted to be with me, he needed to discuss uncomfortable topics. He opened up and it was actually deeper than this. This has happened before. His uncle is very rich and for his 60th birthday, he had a very big party. As a thank you, we received thank you cards with our pictures on it, professionally taken. I remember this picture because his uncle had a red carpet moment when guests were photographed upon their arrival. Later, we went to my boyfriend's mother to see the rest of the photos and I was not in any of them. I thought it was funny how I literally evaded being caught on camera. I never mentioned this or even reflected on it, and while my boyfriend and his family were looking at the pictures and discussing the evening, it was just so normal and no one mentioned something out of the ordinary. Today he told me that I was photoshopped off the pictures. Everyone in his family knew it but me. At the time they just thought the uncle could choose whoever he wanted to have in his pictures and they moved on. But you all kept it from me. Yes, so you must have thought it was hurtful. I did. I asked my family not to tell you. And we continued going to that uncle. Celebrated some Christmas, Easters and vacations with him. Silence. You didn't feel offended on my behalf? Silence. And now you think it's okay that your sister is doing the same? I didn't think any of it that way. I know my sister. She's not a racist. If it wasn't racist, why is she feeling embarrassed now? Silence again from him. You think what she did was alright? Of course not. Will you just stand and watch when this happens to our children? Of course not. I know my boyfriend very well. He's very kind and I never felt he was racist in any way. I know he's not stupid either and is aware of these things, which makes it worse because it just means he doesn't care enough. I asked him why he didn't care enough and he said he was so sorry, but he knows me to be a strong girl that never lets these petty things affect her. He's right, I normally ignore 99% of the racism and microaggressions I face in life and even laugh at the ignorance. We even discussed this before, but does being strong mean that people are entitled to try to hurt me? Because I usually don't let them? Does it mean I wouldn't appreciate to feel the support of my boyfriend having my back? Don't strong women also deserve being supported by their loved ones and feeling safe and loved? He couldn't answer this. I told him that I never want his sister in my life again, or his uncle, and probably not his mother either if she still wants me to apologize. I don't want to surround myself with people like them, and especially when I have children, and I asked him if he's willing to live like that. I asked him not to answer me now and think about it. It kind of felt like an ultimatum, and that's bad, but I didn't know how to handle the situation better. And yeah, ripe stars, let me know what you think about this situation. Honestly, I feel like OP is definitely not in a good relationship, and I think if she would break up with the boyfriend who is clearly spineless, she would probably dodge a big bullet. Because just as she said, in the future, it's really not guaranteed that their future children are not gonna struggle the same way as OP because the boyfriend's parents are so racist and stupid. Either way, as I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And the next one is titled Petty Revenge Story. I was living in an apartment with just myself and my 2 daughters who were twins. There was no assigned parking and myself and the people who lived below me often ended up parking in spots fairly close to each other. I had just purchased my first non-beta car, so I was being very cautious about how I parked. I was not bumping into anything, parking too close to the line, etc. The neighbors, however, constantly parked right on the edge, crooked and sometimes over the line. One night I came home from work and all the spots in front of the apartments we lived in were empty. I remembered this because it was odd and kind of a cool, I don't have to squeeze in or park a mile away moment. The next morning me and my girls leave to go grocery shopping. My neighbor's car is parked right next to ours and there is a very large noticeable scratch and dent on its door. It honestly looked like someone had intentionally slammed their door into it repeatedly. We get home and are carrying our groceries up the stairs. It takes a few trips. After the last trip I am in the doorway and one of my daughters comes racing up behind me. Mom, there is a lady asking, other daughter's name, a bunch of questions even though she said she cannot talk to her. I am big on the don't talk to strangers thing, so I head down and ask what I can do for her and the conversation basically goes as follows. M for me, N for neighbor, NBF for neighbor's boyfriend and husband. Me, can I help you? Neighbor, I think your kid may have hit my car with your car door. Maybe she didn't, but she refuses to answer me, so she seems guilty. Me, well, first of all, my daughter does not know you and she does not have to answer you. In fact, I'm going to ask you to not speak to my daughters unless I am present or I give you permission. Secondly, my daughters are 10. I don't allow them to get into my car without me. I can assure you they have not hit your car. In fact, I always stress to them to be careful when opening their door because people often park close. When do you think this happened? Neighbor, last night. And you're not with your kid every time they open a door. No one is. It could have happened when they were getting something out of it. Me? Well, since I live on the 3rd floor, I actually don't let my kids go get things out of the car without me. I'm just not comfortable being unable to get them quickly if something were to happen. And last night we parked before you got home and remained parked all night until we left this morning for groceries. The dent was already there when we left, so it was not my car that hit yours. Sorry, I guess. Neighbor, your car is white and the paint left on my door is white. It's obviously yours. Your kids did this. Me, I point out that there is not a single scuff on any of my doors, including the inside that would have hit. I also open my door and show her that where my door would hit her car is above where her damage was. I have an SUV and she had a small low-to-the-ground sedan. So even if you don't believe me that my kids are not allowed in my car unsupervised, it could not have been my car that did this damage. Neighbor begins getting very angry and loud at this point. I don't care. You're the only one around here with kids. I see them almost hit other cars all the time. And you park too close to other cars. You need to start parking further away. If it happens again, I'll get your insurance involved. Me? Okay, we are done here. Do what you think you need to. I start to head up the stairs and her boyfriend comes out and blocks my way. NBF, what did she say? Neighbor yelling angrily. She's trying to say it was not them. She's trying to lie and say her kids don't get in the car without her. NBF, that's BS. We have seen them almost hit lots of cars. Me, you need to move. I have explained to her that it couldn't have been my car. You need to get out of my way now and let me pass. NBF, nah, it was yours. The paint is white. You got kids. We have seen them hit other cars. Me, you literally just said you have seen them almost hit other cars, and now you're saying that you have seen them actually hit cars. Neither is true. At this point, I simply move to the next stairwell over and start heading up. Neighbor screaming at me, no, you're not going to take responsibility for what your kids do. If you're not going to pay me, I need your insurance information now. Me, you don't need it, and you are not getting my insurance information because I was not involved in any kind of accident or contact with your vehicle. You really need to stop screaming at me. We both pay a lot to live here, as do all of our neighbors. No one needs to hear irate screaming in the parking lot. Neighbor, we saw your kids do it. We are going to call the cops and we are going to tell everyone here how your kids hit their cars too. Anyone who has a scratch is going to know to come to you. At this point, I turned the voice record feature on my phone. Me? That was the first time you have said you saw my kids do that. You're literally making things up now. You cannot go around door to door here. It is against community rules in the lease that everyone has to abide by. And you cannot just go around lying because you want someone to fix your car. Neighbor, you're going to take responsibility or we will tell everyone you hit their cars. I shut the door and called the police myself to explain the situation, because after they lied and changed their story to that they actually saw my kids hit their car, I was worried they would make that report. The apartment complex management was not there on weekends, but I told them the following Monday. They assured me that they could not do what they threatened and told me not to worry about it and said that they would give them a verbal warning. The police came and I played the recording for them and showed them how my car had no damage and my door did not even line up with their damage. The neighbors went inside and shut their door when they saw the police pull up. The police basically told me I had nothing to worry about, and it sounded more like they were trying to get someone to cover their damage since they did not know who did it and were trying to use intimidation to get me to cave. They knocked on the neighbor's door and explained to them that they cannot physically stop me from trying to get into my apartment or harass me, and that they were going to give me a report because it sounded like they may be trying to commit insurance fraud. They attempted to tell the officers that they saw my kids hit their car, but they were not having any of it. After that, I started taking pictures and video of my car and theirs every time I parked. A couple of times they came out yelling that I'm not allowed to film their car without permission. I just blew that off. That got really tedious, but it was clear they were not letting go of their grudge against me and my kids, so I invested in a cheap security camera. I put it in the window facing the parking lot below. I would skim it really fast overnight or if I was parked during the day for several hours. I just sped it up really fast looking for when their car parked, etc. One day I pulled up and they were out on their porch. I started to walk upstairs and they made snarky comments like, "Oh, you're not going to go out and video everything?" I actually wanted them to know that my car was still being filmed, so they knew they couldn't make crap up, so I said in the friendliest and non-sarcastic tone I could muster, "Nope. Don't need to. I have a camera in my window doing it for me." This was a mistake because they started flipping out, demanding to know where the camera catches and ranting that I cannot film them on their porch. The camera did not catch their porch and demanding that I show them where all was being filmed and that if I didn't take it down, they would have me arrested, etc. I mentioned that they had already been warned by the apartment complex management to stop contacting me and that I really did not want to have to report them, but if they continued to harass me, I would. Fast forward a few months and a large service van backs into their parked car and drives off. It caused significant damage. My camera caught it all. They actually knocked on my door asking if it had. And honestly, had they been polite, I probably would have helped them out, but they basically just immediately started demanding that I check my camera, and that if I wouldn't, it was probably because it was me. I let them know that I would be deleting the footage and not to contact me again. They tried to say that if I did it, it was a crime since it was evidence of a crime and they were going to call the cops once again on me. However, nothing else ever happened, but it is one of the few times in my life I have ever not helped someone when I was in a position to do it, and I don't feel bad at all. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.